This was back in 2005, and I still distinctly remember the date, on 30th of April. Our office account had $5 in it. You don't know this, Jay. $5 in it, 243 rupees for those of you who are joining from India. 243 rupees, I can assure you, you cannot run a business anywhere in the world. So understandably, we had decided to fold up, right? We had decided to shut down NetElixir, and it was supposed to be a dream which unfortunately died because we couldn't get any client, we couldn't get any support, essentially. And the company was supposed to fold up on the 7th of May because the lease was till 7th of May. On 3rd of May, our phone lines were supposed to be disconnected. On second evening, I get a call from this gentleman who introduces himself as Jay Steinfeld. I said, who Jay Steinfeld? I said, the phone voice said that Cliff Kurtzman, one of the person that you had met during your tour, sort of speaks highly of you, and we would want to do a test with you guys as to how good you guys are. Welcome, Marlita. So how good you guys are, and effectively the rest is history. So when Jay accepted our invitation, I can't even express to all of you as to how much that meant. Because without his help, I wouldn't be standing here. There would not be no NetElixir, there would not be any XSQL experience. We would all not have met. There would be no Udaan, nothing. So what I mean to say is, I mean, as an entrepreneur now, when we do something like Udaan, etc., we know that as an entrepreneur or a business person, and I think we have a lot of business leaders in this room, a small thing can have an impact in ways that you can probably not even imagine of, right? So in many cases, we somehow probably tend to overthink and not take the next step, right? Primarily because what if? My request to all the entrepreneurs, and I know we have a huge number of entrepreneurs joining from India as well, don't ask, just do it. Right? That's my simple message, because you can really make an impact which is much beyond what you think. And a big thank you to Jay for, because of him, NetElixir exists. So thank you very much, Jay. Really an honor to have you here. Now that I have spent enough time telling our story, let me introduce formally Jay. He is the founder and CEO of Blinds.com. He bootstrapped the company in 1996 for just $3,000 from his Bel Air, Texas garage, and it was acquired by Home Depot in 2014. Jay remained as a CEO for the next few years, and after stepping away, he has been very actively, I shouldn't use the word promoting because it seems a little and not right, but he has been a great evangelist for entrepreneurship across. He's associated with the Rice University as such. And he's also recently written an absolutely fantastic book called Lead from the Core. And we have the privilege of having Jay doing an actual book signing today for all the attendees as well, right after this session also, during our sip and sign session. But without further ado, let me invite Jay. And I have to also acknowledge two very important members that Jay was kind enough to bring in. Jay's wife, Barbara, thanks for joining in. It really means a lot. Thanks a lot. And Aunt Carol as well. Thanks a lot for coming in. With that, Jay, let me hand it over to you. Yeah.
Mic working okay? Yeah, good. Great. I'm going to just stand here if it's okay. That was very kind, very generous. But one of the things you don't remember is at that meeting, you signed over half of your company to me. And here's the contract right here.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I hope this is not going to cause a problem for you. So, very generous of you. Thank you so much. It's great to be here. It's truly spectacular to be here, to see you, Udayan, after so many years, in person. We've kept in touch through LinkedIn, digitally, but to see you in person and such a nice invitation to be here, I'm very appreciative. Thank you so much. Well, we're here to talk about disruption, on how you can disrupt others before they disrupt you. And the reason we're talking about that is I keep getting asked the same question all the time. Jay, how the heck did Blinds.com disrupt Home Depot and Lowe's and Amazon and disrupt an entire industry with so little money and so few people? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. But we're going to need a little context, though, to know how we came up with these principles so that you can then apply these principles to your business, because it's not enough just to know how I did it. What applies to you, and whether it's your business, whether it's your organization, or whether it's just your life. How can you disrupt your own life so that you can become the best that you can possibly be? Because that's actually the whole heart of what we did. So it started off in 1993 when I had this business that was actually started by my wife, Laura's Draperies, and of course her name was Naomi. Naomi started Laura's Draperies. I had just been fired from my company of Meineke Discount Mufflers. I was a vice president of finance. The company was sold, and they go, "We don't need you anymore." I was sold. I had no job, but I was a CPA at KPMG, Pete Marwick, and I thought, okay, I'm a CPA, perfect, I'll sell blinds. So I opened up my second store, another Laura's Draperies. So Naomi was selling through one store, I was selling in the other. We would be in our vans and go to people's homes and help them choose the best window covering. We were shop-at-home designers. Nothing high-tech, nothing at all. It was basically just a store. And it was a good store. We were making about or actually not making, had revenue of about $1.5 million, which was pretty good for a little 1,000 square foot store. So then, this is 1987, we heard about something by reading an article. 3 words came to my attention called World Wide Web. The information superhighway. I thought, what the hell is that? I don't know. Email? What is email? Well, so I started in 1993 the world's first website for blinds. Now notice I didn't say to sell blinds, because you don't sell blinds online. You don't do that. In fact, not sure what you do. Now, remember, this is when you had modems with screeching and no broadband, it would go all those sounds, remember that? Prodigy was there, CompuServe, AOL. You didn't even have your own name for an email. It was big news when CompuServe said, you can use Steinfeld at CompuServe.com as your email. Hey, that's pretty cool. So that's the time we were. People didn't even want to give your credit card online because they weren't even buying online. Well, when I heard about this company selling books online, Amazon, and thought, wow, you can sell stuff online? I've got a great idea. I'm going to sell blinds online. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sell a product that people will never be able to see, never be able to touch. They're not going to be able to see the colors. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to make them install it themselves and measure it themselves and take all the risk. That sounds like a great idea. And of course, everybody said, that is a harebrained idea. That is a stupid idea. It'll never work. In fact, my manufacturers wouldn't even sell to me. They said, no, that's not going to work. No one's going to do that. Now, if I was teaching an MBA class like I do on marketing and entrepreneurship, one of the things they talk about is TAM. What is your total addressable market? There was no addressable market there. So they'd say, no, there's no way you should sell blinds online because there's no market for it. Or maybe because there was no one doing it, that was an opportunity. And I thought, well, I'm just going to make an experiment. I might as well try, because what's the risk? It cost me $1,500 to start Laura's.com. What's the risk of that? What is the downside risk of spending $1,500 in learning about the internet? That's what I did. Did I have a vision as to what the internet could be? Absolutely not. Am I a visionary? No. I am a direct marketer who just wanted to make a decision on how I might be able to get a little bit better by trying something a little bit different with not a lot of downside risk. Basically, that's how we did it. We did a lot of experiments really fast with very little downside risk, but we kept experimenting every day, multiple experiments every day. So this is the house that it all started. Like all good e-commerce companies, they start in the garage. And there's this garage right there. That's where it all started. This was at 4815 Pine Street, and the name of the company was No Brainer Blinds, the first one. It wasn't blinds.com, because we wanted to make buying blinds and shades a no-brainer. So why not call it No Brainer Blinds? Because there were all the competitors were mail order companies. American blinds, US blinds. They were all sounded the same, all generic, and I wanted something that sounded a little different, maybe a little irreverent. So No Brainer Blinds was it. It's kind of a weird name, but I liked it. So we just started doing that. It was all based on the Car Talk. You familiar with that show, Car Talk, on National Public Radio? Anyone know that show? Yeah, it's pretty funny, but I'm not going to go through that because we don't have a lot of time, but it was all based on Car Talk. There was one part of it, though, where you had to send in a puzzler to one puzzler tower in Boston, in Cambridge. So I changed my address from No Brainer Blinds, 4815 Pine Street, which sounded like a house. It was a house, to No Brainer Blinds, One Brainer Tower. So everybody would send money, because nobody would buy online, to One Brainer Tower. And I just got mail at One Brainer Tower, even though that wasn't our official address. I think that's funny. And there's a lot of things I keep thinking about seeing those envelopes, and it said No Brainer Blinds, One Brainer Tower, Houston, Texas. There's a lot of stuff that we did to puff ourselves up and make us look a lot bigger than we really were. And I can get into some of those really just ridiculously stupid but very effective things. Well, we'll mention one thing. We would take ads like Federal Express, Pro Flowers, and all these big companies and put their ads on the website. So people thought we had a lot of traffic and that we had people willing to pay us money to advertise on the site. Now, where did they link to? Nowhere. They were just ads. They were static. Of course, we don't want people to go off the site. They're on our site. We got to stay there. But it was just a way to make us look a lot bigger. One Brainer Tower was another way to do that. So there it is, the first website, No Brainer Blinds. Does anybody know what that thing is up on top? What's that? What? This here? Oh no, that is Netscape. Yes. Are you an IT? You must be an IT guy. Yeah, you're the first person that's ever said that. Yeah, it's Netscape browser, of course. People remember Netscape? So the logo, what is the logo? Just call it out. Come on, what does that look like to you? Okay, I'll tell you what people normally say. They think it's a bear, a cub, a tiger. Well, it's not. Look closely. This is a man with no brain. Made out of brains. Yes, that is a guy with no brain, made out of brains. So I remember when I was with Naomi in the Laura's Drapery showroom, and I said, okay, we're going to do No Brainer Blinds, and I've got a great idea for a logo. And I just kind of drew this thing on a sheet of paper, just like that, and that was our logo. It's really ridiculous. I know it's ridiculous, but I'll tell you what, it did this. That's pretty cool, right? Okay, then we had another website that has purple and orange on it because we thought, all right, how do we make people believe that we're really fast and we're dependable? Well, FedEx is purple and orange, we'll be purple and orange. Basically, all the ideas that I ever thought of came from stolen ideas from every other company that I ever watched, which is a lesson. You can learn from every person, every company, every interaction you ever have. And that was another part of our success. Every time we had any interaction at all, we learned from it. And that is really important to do. So there's the no-brainer guy again, the no-brainer head. I'm not going to go through that, but because we were the first online, because we were the only ones online, we were the world's most popular and trusted online source for blinds. Another one of the ways how we puffed ourselves up. And then we actually became the #1 online retailer of blinds in the world, which was nice. Okay, so there's the van. That's the actual van, Toyota Previa, that we were in. We each had one. And those vans were just filled with samples. My kids couldn't even sit in seatbelts when I was doing carpool. So they'd be on top of these books, sliding around on the books, and that's how we did it. They were super embarrassed because it had the Laura's Drapery sign on the van. They thought that was, oh, please, don't show up. Take off the sign. Don't show. They actually like it now. They like the idea that we had Laura's Draperies, No Brainer Blinds, and soon Blinds.com. Okay, so here's how it worked. When we're going to, I kept my day job at Laura's Draperies, and people would call into the showroom, and they'd say, for No Brainer Blinds, because I was the only person working at No Brainer Blinds. It was just me. I was the whole company. Literally, I was every employee. So they'd call into Laura's. Again, no risk. I kept my day job, right? And by the way, that site cost me $3,000. That's the only money I ever put into the business. $1,500 for Laura's, $3,000 for No Brainer Blinds. Never put in any more money at all. So they'd call into the showroom, and the showroom manager would say, all of our customer representatives are busy. We'll have one call you back. So that was me. So I would be at my showroom. I would be in my van, driving around Houston, Texas. And I remember the first time somebody called me, I was on the freeway in front of what is now Lakewood Church, and at the time it was the Summit where the Houston Rockets used to play. I pulled off the side of the highway, on the side of the road, and had the phone that looked just like that. And I made my first sale from the front of my van. And I did that for several years, taking all the calls from my van by calling customers back. There was no caller ID, so I didn't even know where the call was coming from. I had an order pad, I had the phone, a pen, a calculator, price books, and I just pulled off the phone and just looked up the prices and sold everything over the phone. That's how we started. It was really, really small, but it was all incremental. And again, I had no vision as to what it could be. It was a marketing experiment. Just a little incremental revenue, which was all profit, no advertising. The only way we got people to see us was through search engine optimization, SEO, which people had no clue was at the time. No one knew what SEO was then. I had this guy, Danny Sullivan, who turned out to be now one of the top SEO people in the world, and he did my search engine optimization personally himself, which is pretty cool. I've never met him, but we've talked over the years, and that's pretty cool too. I love the fact that we work with people that I've never met. So we had one Brainer Tower. Then we needed a real office, which is back here, this green door behind at the end of an alley. 2 Brainer Tower. And one of the funny things about this is, as we built the company, every time we moved to a new location, it became 3 Brainer Tower, 4, we were up to 8 Brainer Tower. And we've created these vision documents as to what we could become. Creating a vision, you know that's very important, right? It's super important. And in our vision document, if you look really closely, and most people can't see this, it says billion Brainer Tower. Again, and this is just something, I may be the only one that thinks that's funny, and I amuse myself through these jokes. And no Brainer Tower, billion Brainer Tower, I just think it's pretty fun to be amused, which you'll see was another one of the tenets of our success. Always having fun, and having fun in the process of creating something a little bit different, a little quirky. So that was 2 Brainer Tower. And this is a rat trap, which means what? There were rats. Yeah, because there's a dumpster and there were rats all over this place. So every day, remember, I'm still in my van, nice, going into people's homes, but I had 2 employees at this point in 2 Brainer Tower, and every day they'd have to walk past the rats and the dumpster and the smell, the stench of that garbage into that little office. This was before we met you, and then we were able to afford a better office. So let's see what's happened. Let's kind of reassess here. Laura's Drapery started in 1987. Laura's online in 93. Amazon launched No Brainer Blinds. We go full-time online in 2001 because at this time, in 2001, I'm doing about $1.5 million online with 2 people on a website that I'm hardly working at all. And I'm doing $1.5 million at Laura's Draperies, which was pretty good, except I'm working 7 days a week and not seeing my kids. I have 3 children. I'm not seeing my wife. I'm not seeing my dog. And here's a company doing $1.5 million. So what should I do? Well, sell the Laura's draperies, of course, and just go online. That's what I did. So people say, how'd you get involved? You have this vision about what you were going to do? No, I just started slowly. It eventually built up, and I realized this is a pretty cool thing. I don't have to work that hard, and I'm selling things in my sleep, literally. So sold Laura's draperies and went full-time online. So the question now is, how did we get from there to in 2014 when we sold to Home Depot? What happened in between there that I could actually build something of substance, of significance, and sell to Home Depot at a really nice price? And that's what we're going to talk about. So there are basically three foundations of leadership, but we're only going to talk about one. Of course, establishing a vision is really important. We talked about that a little bit. Assembling an aligned team, which also means your resources and making sure there's processes for execution. But the third thing is establishing the right environment, making sure that you have got an environment that is ripe for success. If you want to grow cactus, you don't set it up in Hawaii. You set it up in a desert. So we wanted a creative type of business that was always evolving and always thinking, so we had to think about what kind of culture we wanted. Now, what did I know about culture? I knew nothing about culture. What did I know about any of this stuff? Nothing. I really knew nothing when I started. I knew how to sell blinds, and I knew how to do books as a CPA, but I knew nothing about leadership, nothing about scaling a business, nothing about any of this stuff. But I did learn. What I did realize, though, was that the most important thing for me to get the success of my business was to help people become better than what they ever believed possible. This was actually the stated purpose of the company. Help people become better than they ever believed possible. And this is mostly about our associates, myself, all stakeholders. Because when you help people become better than they ever believed possible, and they truly believe that you want them to be successful and to become a better person, not just achieve metrics or OKRs or whatever the numbers are, that they're actually developing and they're not stagnant and they're feeling good. They go to a dinner party and they don't say, you know what, I was able to shave 2 bips of my of cost out of my operating cost. Who cares? Instead of saying, I was able to do something that no one's ever been able to do before. We're selling blinds online, and we're selling them successfully, and people are happy, and we're getting these high quality scores, and we're getting 2/3 of our customers are repeat. That's cool. That's doing something that you can be proud of, and that's what we wanted to do. So people were evolving all the time. So when you have that happen, then you have this business that autonomously gets excellent. Autonomous excellence happens when everything in the company is getting better, especially the people. Our focus wasn't so much on the customer, it was on our own people. All right, so we got this thing going in 2002. In 2001, I'm going full-time online. We're selling the store. Things are going great. I've been married 25 years, 3 children. Things are looking really good, except my wife, Naomi, had cancer, and she died in August 2002. Wow. Now what do I do? Do I keep the business running? We just started. I'd hired 7 people now. I don't know. What do I do with my own life? I started being introspective as to what makes me tick. How do I define success? How do I define happiness? What is happiness? What is success? What's the most important thing about life? And what should I do with my 3 children and all these people now that I've hired? So I went on this tour to Alaska and started thinking about what was important to me. All the things that I had just said. And I came up with 3 things, 2 of which turned out not to be true. And over time, I've actually evolved to come up with 4 key things that are the most important things about myself, and then apply these to the business. These were not ideals that I created that said, if I want a business that's successful, these are the things it should be. It's just what makes me tick, why do I get up in the morning, what propels me into action, and came up with these things. the 4 principles for profit and prosperity, the 4 E's. The first E is to evolve. We heard about evolving earlier, about you have to be, what was it, about consciously unhappy with things from UPS? Same thing, to evolve continuously. So when you evolve, what does that mean? What needs to evolve? Anybody? What are the things that need to evolve?
Your attitudes, your behaviors, your actions.
Your attitude, all those things, processes, procedures. Really, the answer is everything. There is nothing that should not improve. How you hire, how you advertise, how you lead. And then there's the softer things that are just as important, maybe even more so. How do you provide guidance to your employees? How do you provide personal development? Are you being clear enough with the vision and where they fit in? Are you asking your people as to where they want to fit in, where they want to be? These are all things that you can get better at. And if you think about evolving, and that you need to evolve yourself, and all your people need to evolve, and that is your number one goal, is to help everybody around you get better, then you have this autonomous excellence. And the obligation now is for not only you as a leader to help other people, but to tell those other people who are working with you that their role is to help everybody around them to improve as well. And that's steel sharpening steel. It was a requirement, not just to have the propensity to improve, but to actually have the action and the behavior and the impetus to want to be better and to help everybody around you. So your goal, your obligation, if you heard somebody on the phone with a problem, like answering a certain question or in a certain part of the conversation, you needed to get out of your seat and say, Dixie, I heard you during this one section. Here's what I do during that to help. Everybody was required to do that. And we made sure that when we hired people, that they already didn't just want to get better, but demonstrated that in their personal lives, they are already taking steps to get better themselves at something. One of the questions we asked in every interview was, give me some examples right now of what you're doing to get better at anything, not in a professional sense. If they couldn't answer that question, we would not hire them, because not everybody wants to improve. Everybody knows, yeah, of course I need to improve. I need to evolve or die, right? Everybody knows that, but not everybody is willing to do it. And we wanted people who not only were willing to do it, but loved to do it, who wanted to thrive and not be stagnant and evolve. So this was super important. The second thing, in order to evolve, you had to take some chances. You need to experiment. You needed to experiment without fear of failure. That's the second E, experiment without fear of failure. Now, if you're doing experiments and they're all working, are you really experimenting? No, because most experiments don't work. You have to know that you're going to experiment, and you have to make it safe for people to take chances and know that most of the things they're going to do are not going to work. But you don't want to bet the farm. At least I never. They say, well, you're an entrepreneur, you must be risk averse. I mean, you must be highly willing to take risk. No, I'm risk averse. I hate risk. I don't like risk. I never gamble. I never feel like I'm gambling. I go into a Las Vegas, I never bet. I don't like that. It makes me feel uneasy. But being in business, that seems like a bad bet for most people, right? Well, not if you just take small chances and you're willing to evolve, and that's basically what we were doing, is trying new things. We had 2 big test tubes, 6-foot test tubes, about 1.5 feet wide each, clear, that we had made. And in one of the test tubes were these marbles filled the entire test tube, showing all the, enumerating the experiments that we had tried that failed. In the other test tube, it was only filled up about 20%. These were the experiments that worked. So everybody, and they came into the office, saw these test tubes and realized that most experiments are going to fail. And we are celebrating that failure. We are celebrating and acknowledging that most of the things we try will not work. If you make it safe for people to try something new and for the purpose of getting better, they're going to love that, because most places you're not free to experiment. You're not free to speak up, which brings you into number 3. Express. Express yourself. Because if you want to experiment, if you want to know what experiments you should do, or where you need to evolve, it's really hard to look in the mirror and say, you know, I'm really bad at that. I could get better at that. You usually need somebody else to tell you, and you want to make it safe for people to feel like they can tell you these things. And this is so important, to know that people can speak up and disagree with everybody, especially me. It is hard to hear sometimes, but unless you hear it, you'll never get better. And if you really do want to get better, you have to hear it. And when people know that you are willing and vulnerable, and you don't believe you know everything, they'll come up with ideas and they'll say, you know, I'm not sure this is going to work, but one of our tenets here is to express yourself. So I'm going to express myself, and I think maybe we should experiment. I'm not sure if it's going to work. I have no idea, but maybe we should think about that. And then somebody else will say, you know, that's really interesting, but what if we do this? Maybe that makes it a little bit more likely. And now you've got all these people collaborating, thinking that it might not work, but it's worth a shot. These are not brilliant ideas. I understand that. But they're ideas that work, and very few people do. It's just logic to try something a little bit different and not risk everything. Now, why is it that people don't do this when it seems so logical? Why don't people express themselves and experiment and evolve? What are some of the reasons in an organization where you may be in or you've seen? Complacency. They think things are okay. Why should we? I don't want to have to think any harder. Yeah, that's a good one. What's that? Fear of backlash. So tell me more about that.
Your opinion may not be the standard opinion of everyone else.
So there's groupthink, where everybody's pretty much talking the same language, everybody's agreeing with everybody, and here, who are you to disagree? Like, you're an outlier, but we thought we were pretty good. I mean, we're all agreeing, we're doing well, the company's doing great. Why would you even tell us that we may not be right? I don't want to hear that. We've been right. We've been right for a long time. Why would this possibly work now? People are afraid to bring things up because they're afraid also to make their boss look stupid. They're afraid they're going to get fired if it doesn't work. They've been trained not to speak up. They've been trained just to do what they're told. They've given a list, you check them off, and you keep your head down and you don't make waves. That's how you build your career, right?
No, it's like the IBM syndrome, where they thought that they had the whole market, and they didn't do anything different, and then the market caught up and surpassed them, and then they had to change their paradigm.
So I don't know if everybody heard, but it's like the IBM, where they thought they had cornered the market, they didn't change, they were complacent, and then all of a sudden the market caught up and surpassed. Yeah, that happens in a lot of industries and a lot of companies. But people are basically afraid of looking stupid. They're fearful of getting fired. They're fearful of not having stature. There's a lot of reasons for being just embarrassed. And they're not going to speak up. But your role as a leader is to make people feel safe. And it's not just about what you tell them to do, it's how you behave. So when somebody, in fact, it's almost all about how you behave. So if you're telling people you want them to express themselves, what are some examples of doing that? Well, you have a meeting, there's a new person in the meeting, and you go through the whole meeting and they never open their mouth. They never say anything. What do? You take them aside after the meeting and you say, you know, I didn't hear a word from you during that meeting. Now, you don't necessarily say it with that tone, but you say something like that. It essentially is, I'm paying you for your brain. I'm paying you to think. I want to hear from you. You are going to probably think about these things way differently than everybody else. So if you don't speak, I don't even know why you're in the meeting. And if you don't start speaking up and telling us how you're thinking, I don't even want you in the meeting. I've actually had those conversations, and then they do speak up. Now, I do realize that some people are afraid to speak up in public. That they're culturally, they don't want to disagree with people. That's fine. So do it privately. Tell them if you don't want to speak up in the meeting, at least come to me after the meeting, or send it in an email, in a text, something, Slack. However you're communicating in your organization, speak up. We want to hear from you. If somebody asks a question, or we have an all-hands meeting for like the last 17 years, every week, and people were allowed to ask anything. Any question was fine. So they'd ask a question, and if there was a new person that asked a question, I go, I don't know what your name is, but all I want you to know is, I applaud you for having the courage to speak up in front of all these people and ask a question. Now, what is your question? So that would be something that you would do to acknowledge the core values of whatever your core values are. I mean, these are my 4, but you could have others. You could have completely different ones, but reinforcing it with your behavior is super, super important. So the 4th one, enjoy. I think you could tell I really enjoyed what I did. I loved building the business. I loved experimenting without fear. And really, enjoyment is not so much about ping pong and shuffleboard and foosball and giant lava lamps. And we had all those things. But it was really about doing things that people said could never be done. It was about evolving and experimenting. And just our turnover rate was 8%. And it only got that much because before it was like 0 because we weren't having minimum acceptable performance standards. But once we had minimum acceptable performance standards, we realized, hey, some of these people aren't cutting it. We need to either move them up or out, or move them into a different role if their core values were aligned with ours. So this is all fun, and I think it's the way that you can be in business and have fun being in business. It is hard work, it's serious work, but if you think about expanding yourself, expanding everybody around you, it can actually be delightful. I think Barbara would say to me, he goes to his playground every day. And it's true. There was not one day where I dreaded going in. I loved it. It was just fun. And that's what you try to do. So there's 3 things I'd like you to think about based on what we said. Where must your business evolve? And is there some suggestion that you've got that you've just been afraid to try, that you've been afraid to speak up? And are you helping your people really feel safe to speak up to help you evolve? The second one is, what change in yourself might you explore? And if there's something that's really hard that you know you're never going to get good at, just say, you know, I'm never going to be good at that, or I hate doing that. Hire somebody else to do it. I mean, I will work as hard as anybody, but I don't want to. I really want to work as little as possible. I mean, don't you? Don't you really want to get the most value for the least amount of work? So hire somebody else to do it. I don't know why people have a hard time delegating, except, you know, micromanaging, wanting to do it perfection, and that you're the only one who can do it. I get all that. But really, if you want to do something of any consequence, you have to have consequential people. If you want to do something of significant, you have to make people feel significant, and that's by giving them real work and allowing them to stretch and feel good about themselves. And the third one is, how can you be more generous? Generosity is not about giving more money. It's about giving respect. It's about giving your time. It's about giving information. It's about understanding, asking questions to your people to say, what do you want? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Not how are you going to help the company in 5 years? Because maybe they want to start their own company. Maybe they want to be a CEO at some other company. If you give them the freedom to tell you that, you can help them get there, and they'll actually stay with you longer because they know they can get there better with your guidance and your coaching and your personal development than going out there on their own. It's counterintuitive, I know, but when people said, you know, I want to be a CEO, I want to start my own company, a startup, I thought that was great. We want entrepreneurs, and as long as we can keep them, great. In the meantime, they're building, we're working together, and people are staying, and we're getting shit done. We're getting a lot of stuff done because people really care about each other and wanting to evolve continuously. All right, so when you have an organization that really cares and is supporting each other and is helping each other and is feeling good about being there, you might leave the company one day and come back and find out that they've created a video for you like this.
When I wake up, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who wakes up next to you. When I go out, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who goes along with you. If I get drunk, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who gets drunk next to you. And if I haver, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who's havering to you. But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walked 1,000 miles to fall down at your door. When I'm working, yes, I know I'm gonna be the man who's working hard for you. And when the money comes in for the work I do, I'll pass almost every penny on to you. When I come home, oh, I know I'm gonna be the man who comes back home to you. And if I broke, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who's going over you. But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walks 1,000 miles to fall down at your door. When I'm lonely, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who's lonely without you. And when I'm dreaming, well, I know I'm gonna dream about the time when I'm with you. When I go out, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who goes along with you. And when I come home, yes, I know I'm gonna be the man who comes back home with you. I'm gonna be the man who's coming home with you. But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walks 1,000 miles to fall down at your door. And I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walked 1,000 miles and fall down at your door.
Thank you. That was cool. And of course, they did that without asking because that's just what you do at blinds.com. You experiment without fear and you express yourself. So in conclusion, my definition of success is not about achieving something, about selling to Home Depot or achieving 100 million or even $1 billion in sales. It's about being in the process of getting better and helping everybody around me get better. That's how I define success. So hopefully, if any one of you here or live stream have gotten just a little bit better, then I've been successful and I appreciate it very much. Udayam, thank you for having me. Thank you very much.